You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey there, this is not Car 54, nor is it Studio 54, but it is episode 54 of the SoulForge podcast.
Car 54, where are you?
Welcome to the SoulForge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the SoulForge.
Hey folks, welcome to the show. I'm going back to my old microphone. I used a different one last week and I just didn't like the sound quality of it, so hopefully this one, the regular one, is going to meet my audio standards for your audio entertainment. If there's one thing here at the SoulForge that it's all about, it's bringing you the highest quality in audio entertainment that I can possibly deliver. And of course, I'm all about bringing you what you want to hear. This week on Facebook, and as you may or may not know, the SoulForge podcast does have a Facebook page, facebook.com/SoulForgePodcast. I asked people who follow that page what they would like to hear from the Forge of Souls. Our good buddy Richard from Australia suggested that we talk about summer fun.
Nothing on earth that'll get me humming like a heat wave coming. I come running with me, making that pen in the broad daylight. And every night is a Saturday night. Everything's right, the summer coming. I'm the first one standing in line. For my day in the sun, I've been working till the sun don't shine.
And I thought that was a wonderful idea. We've had a run of heavy topics as of late, and every once in a while we just have to switch it up, make it a little bit more light, and just talk about something that, it doesn't have to be deeply philosophical every week. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. Last week's topic, all about race and diversity and gay pride and all kinds of those things. Well, you know what? It went better than I expected. I've listened to it after I edited the podcast, and then I listened to it while I was out walking. And several people did make the comment that, yeah, you could hear the nervousness or the uncertainty in my voice, because it's a very important topic that I chose last week. This week, I wanted something lighthearted. And speaking of Richard, the morning after the podcast came out, I woke up, and what did I get? I got a very, very nice email from him, all about his thoughts on the topic, and I had nothing to worry about. He validated everything that I was thinking, and I would love to read it to you guys. However, this week we're not going to do that, but if you do want to send emails to the show, soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for being awesome as always, Richard. If I ever make it to Australia, we're getting together for coffee, we're going to podcast, we're going to have a chat, we're going to hang out, maybe we'll go surfing, maybe we'll go find Muggsy and go to one of his concerts. I don't know. I've never been to Australia. You'll have to show me show me around. What do you do in Australia? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. When I was a kid, summer held such promise of adventure and excitement. Why? Well, because 2 months off from school. Summer was a time to rest and relax, kick your feet up, not have any care in the world, no responsibility. What did I used to do in the summertime? A few different things, actually. From the time I was little, and even before I can remember, my grandparents used to take me and the family out camping. I don't know if we did it once or twice or 3 times a summer or once and for a long time. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. I called my grandparents Bumpa and Dee Dee. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast or not before, but I'm going to tell it now because it's a fun story. So these are my mom's parents. I guess the names came from the fact that my grandmother used to bounce me on her knee and just sing or hum dee 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 dee. So she became Dee Dee. And from what I'm told, my grandfather, they tried to get me to call him Grumpy or Grumps or something like that, and it ended up being Bumpa. My grandparents were always known as Bumpa and Dee Dee. As I got older, calling them that got a little bit embarrassing, so when I introduced people as a child to them, this was my Bumpa and Dee Dee, and then they became my grandma and grandpa, because at that time, in my, probably my mid-teens, I didn't feel comfortable saying Bumpa. And it shouldn't have mattered, that was just a family thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Bumpa and Dee Dee used to take the family camping, and we went to Beals Lake. We grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada, and Beals Lake was probably about an hour and a half from town. And it was owned by some American friends of my grandparents. I believe they were from Detroit, and they were named Nan and Jean. I think that was their names. That's what I remember. This is a long time ago now. And actually, I do remember when I was 5 or 6, we all went down to Detroit, which was about a 12-hour drive from the Sioux, and we stayed with Nan and Jean for, I think it might have been the Independence Day, Canada Day long weekend, because I do remember something about fireworks. And I remember that Nan, the lady, had what she called a no-no room, which was basically a room that was off limits to kids. So I remember that. I remember there was something about she was a Smurf collector. I remember having fireworks and watermelon and probably hot dogs. It's all very vague memories. I remember having a Capri Sun in the car, either on the way there or on the way back, and I couldn't get the straw into the packaging to get the drink. That's what I remember. So why am I talking about this? Well, because Nan and Jean owned Beals Lake, and we went to visit them, and we went camping at their campsite whenever we could. And what was the best part of camping? Well, the fires, the roasting of the marshmallows. What else did we do? Could kind of swim in the lake. It wasn't the best for that. But my favorite part is after I would go to bed, the adults would stay up and do whatever adults did when kids went to bed. And in the morning, what would there be? Well, there would be crayfish or crawdads in a pot that they had caught for me so that I could play with them by putting a stick in the water pot, and the crayfish, the crawdads, would claw at them, and I'd get to pick them up and look at them and then release them back into the water. So that was fun. I loved doing that as a kid. We also went on hikes into the bush. We went for my grandfather had a motorcycle, and we went motorcycling. We went on the water. I think it was either a canoe or a blow up raft. I can't even remember. This is going back to the early to mid 80s now, so memories are vague. I just remember having a blast. Camping at Beals Lake was always fun. There was always a lot of people there. There was people who would share their watermelons with us kids, popsicles, you name it. It was like a great big community. And there couldn't have been more than like 5 or 10 campsites there. And now, sad, it's not a campsite anymore. It was for sale about 10 years ago. Somebody bought it and built a house there. I wanted to buy it. It was only, I think, $89,000. But of course, I didn't have that kind of money, and that's 4 hours from Timmins, an hour and a half from the Sioux. I couldn't really do anything with the property. I wasn't going to live there. It would have been great, because that's a great childhood memory. But anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, had lots of fun. There was a trash heap that we could explore as kids. I used to smash all the leftover beer cans, take those to the liquor store and get some money for candy. So that was a lot of fun. That's my early childhood. All kinds of summer fun, camping and hiking and bike riding, all that good stuff.
Hello, I'm Daniel Peter Hitch, author of the Bubbles the Pirate children's book series and the Connected Worlds Chronicles. You're listening to the Soul Forge podcast. Keep forging your soul.
Other fun summer activities that I even do now occasionally: yard sailing. I love going to garage sales, seeing what kind of treasures I can pick up, find any kinds of deals, sell things on eBay, just add to my collection of different things. So I remember doing that as a kid, and into my teenage years, my 20s, when I had my own car and I could do it myself. And even now I still do it. I haven't gone this season at all. It's as I'm recording this, it's June 20th, and I haven't gone yard selling at all. I've thought about it, I just haven't. I guess that might be in part because I've stopped collecting so much, or I'm just lazy on a Saturday morning and I don't feel like getting up to do that. I don't know. The traffic is really loud right now. I don't know if the microphone is picking that up, but if you're hearing any rumbling, there are a lot of cars going by, and it's a really hot day, so the windows are kind of open. I'm trying to minimize that as much as possible. Oh, that's another thing that's great to do in the summer. Just cruise around. Drive around town, see all the pretty girls, see all the old cars at the car shows. Music festivals are fun. Here in Timmins, we have a music festival in the summer every Wednesday that we call the Summer Concert Series. And it's just a bunch of local bands. And sometimes I go out to those and listen to the music. And it's free. It's a big crowd. It's a lot of fun. So that's something. When I was, how old was I? It was 1996. So I was going to be 20 that September. I took a bus down to Barrie, which was about 6-7 hours away from the Sioux, hooked up with some friends from university, and went to the Atlantis Morissette concert. That was a lot of fun. I still remember the date, August 10th, 1996. Why do I remember that? I'm not sure, I just do. I think I still have the ticket stub somewhere, actually. Hey, you know what? Now is a good time to play a promo for another podcast on the ESO network, so I will return right after these messages.
Hey there, folks. My name is JC Delatorre.
And I'm Rita Delatorre.
And we are Transmissions from Atlantis, an original member of the ESO network, and we are excited to tell you all about our podcast.
Well, it's everything science fiction, fantasy, horror.
And every single episode will have a segment of Doctor Who. Let's give everybody a taste.
I have my 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay then. So no interrupting.
Go ahead.
Fine.
You're using up your 2 minutes.
Shut up. You're interrupting me. Stop
You're-
it.
You're now up to 50 seconds. This was worse than Kill the Moon.
It was not worse than
I
Kill
would
the Moon.
take the moon as an egg before I would take a bunch of trees, sprout up overnight, save the earth, and then magically... And where did the trees go? Where did the trees go? Yes, Transmissions from Atlantis.
Class.
Classy, sci-fi, pop culture discussions. Check us out, transmissionsfromatlantis.com.
Hey, so yeah, that's a cool promo. I suggest you check out that podcast on the ESO network and all the podcasts. And I'm going to continue to keep playing the promos for those shows in random sequence. So back to the podcast Summer Fun. What's another thing that we do in the summer? Fishing. Fishing seems to be a summer activity that a lot of people do. And our childhood was no exception, me and the brothers and the family and whatnot. We didn't do it a lot. I do remember my dad taking me fishing when I was maybe 5 or 6, and we caught something. And then my stepdad was big into fishing. I don't remember going too much. He talked about it more than he actually did it, I think. But friends of ours would always take us. And I have one story in particular from when I was a little bit older that's kind of silly and kind of funny. I think this was 2004, and I had just recently, the fall before, gotten together with Bishop's mom. Now, of course, Bishop wasn't born yet, because he wasn't born until the end of 2005, but this might have been May or June, probably June of 2004, and we were going to Long Lac. That's about 6 hours from here. Okay, so what happened? Well, I believe that me and Trish and her daughter went. Her sister and boyfriend and the sister's 2 kids went. Trish's parents went, and the grandparents came from Thunder Bay. And we all rented cottages for the week. And what did I do? Well, about a month before, I had just purchased an Xbox and some games. And this was the first gaming system that I had bought for myself as an adult, and I brought it with us because there was going to be a TV in the camp cottage type building thing, and in case it rained or whatever, I figured I'd have some entertainment. Well, I'm not much of a fishing person anyway, so for the whole week, everybody went fishing and whatnot, and there was hikes around town and whatnot, and I went on those. But for the most part, I stayed in the cabin and played Baldur's Gate on Xbox incessantly, and I think I only went on a boat ride once, and I can't even remember if I threw a line in the lake for fishing. I might have, and I enjoyed the boat ride, but I was so obsessed with this game that's all I did. That was probably a poor reflection on me towards the family. I don't know. People laughed at it anyway. Her dad, Trisha's dad, is a big outdoorsman. He's a trapper and he's into all that stuff, and I'm totally the opposite. So, yeah, that was an interesting dynamic.
Hey, podcast fans, Spotify is making it easy for you to stream this podcast and many others like it on your mobile device, desktop app, and smart speaker. Open the app on your mobile device or desktop, click on the browser channel, then click on the podcast section. You'll be able to stay thoroughly entertained during your commute to work, your drive home, and your downtime, thanks to Spotify.
So I talked about fishing and camping and Long Lake, Bumpa and Beals Lake, and the crawdads. As I've gotten older, me and the brothers have decided to do more things together. So my brothers, I'm the oldest, and then 5 years younger than me is Curtis, and 5 years younger than Curtis is Robin. 3 years ago, we went on what we call the brothers hiking trip. Now, Curtis has been trying to get me to go hiking with him for 10 or 15 years. And because I live 5 hours away, our schedules never hooked up together. And besides, I didn't want to walk in the bush with the bugs. But finally, 3 years ago, I called him up and I was picking my holiday schedule for work. And I said, when do you want to do this thing? And he told me. And so I took 2 weeks off. And the three of us brothers went for what was supposed to be a 3-day, 2-night hiking trip. Now, my brother Curtis had all the supplies, and Robin and I had never gone on a hiking trip before. So we purchased some supplies. Curtis had 3 or 4 different hiking backpack type things, a couple tents and sleeping bags and whatever. So because I'm the oldest brother and I'm the tallest, I got the heaviest bag to carry. So that was a lot of fun. And I borrowed his hiking shoes, which were half a size too small for me. So I was really sore the next day. So we did our first day's hiking, and it went pretty good, actually. We set up camp. He showed us how his little portable cooking stove worked, and it was okay. And so we went to bed. The next morning, we woke up to rain. So we packed up our camp and started hiking through the bush, and it was really slippery. Robin almost ended up sliding down a mountain and ended up in Lake Superior, and we would have never caught him, but he managed to snag himself on something and save his life. And it was pouring rain, and our clothes were soaked, and Curtis was way ahead, and Robin and I were talking, and we decided that, you know what, maybe we shouldn't go for another day and a half, because we're absolutely drenched. The rain was going to show no sign of stopping, and we just couldn't go on anymore. So we finally caught up to Curtis, and we said, I know we have another day and a half to go, but how about, since we're at this rest stop, why don't we see if somebody can drive us to the car, and we can just leave now? And he's like, are you sure you don't want to keep going? I'm like, yeah, we're sure. We waited, and we found somebody, and Curtis drove to the truck and came to get us, and we finally went home. And later he told us, you know, I would have kept going, but I'm kind of glad that you decided to call it quits, because our clothes would have never been dry. We would have died of hypothermia probably, and even him and his buddies would have called it quits. So that's what happened. Robin has decided he's never going to go hiking again. I think I might if the trail was a bit better and if I had better equipment. But it was an experience. So that was, I believe that was August of 2015. Last year in 2017, we rented a truck and we went into the United States, and we went, where did we go? Well, we went to a concert, Blondie and Garbage, So that was the Rage and Rampage tour? Rampage and Rage? I don't know, something anyway. I talked about it on episode 13, I think. We had a big episode where it was called the Brothers Road Trip episode. And we went to Cedar Point, and we got lost a bunch of times, and I spent a lot of money, and I met a guy who could have been my twin.
Oh my god, this man is my exact double! That dog has a puffy tail! Here, Puff! Here, Puff!
Slightly taller than me, but we both had bald heads and bushy beards. I wish I would have got his name, because that was super awesome. Sometimes I use that as my profile picture. And we don't know what we're going to do for our next adventure. It should be interesting, whatever it is. Maybe we're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Curtis has talked about all going to Punta Cana or something. That's a big thing in the summer that people, well, not really the summer. I guess it's more in the winter that they go to resorts like Cuba and so on. I've never been to a resort. I think that could be fun. I think he wants to go in February, so that's not really summer fun, but it will feel like summer. It'll be like summer there, so that's cool. Well, this August long weekend, I'm supposed to head to the Sioux, and we're going to have life celebration for all of our relatives that have passed on. As you know, we lost our last two maternal uncles this past spring. We're going to have a celebration for them. We're going to have a celebration for Bumpa and Dee Dee and for my mom and for all the people that we've lost over the years, and just a general get-together. I wouldn't call it a party. I'm not really sure what to expect, but it's going to be whatever remaining family that we have, and we're all going to hang out and maybe have some drinks. I don't know what. I'm not sure what to expect. I'm sure Curtis has something planned, so that'll be interesting. Another thing that I like to do in the late spring, summertime, and we've done it even in the early fall, my buddies, Renee and Bob and I, usually, although we haven't done it for a few years, but we'll take a trip to either Sudbury or North Bay for a weekend. Sometimes we'll have a fourth guy with us, but we call it the ReBoSh weekend because we've strung the first two letters of our names together. Renee, R-E, Bob, B-O, and Sean, S-H, ReBoSh. We have our ReBoSh weekends. We went and saw Weird Al Yankovic in concert a few years ago, stayed at Renee's brother's cottage. We've gone to Sudbury and watched big tentpole movies. Yeah, we've gone to the strip club in Sudbury and also in North Bay when we went to North Bay for whatever we went for. And what do we do at the strip club? Well, we have a few drinks and we look at the girls nervously and hope they don't come and talk to us because we're not into getting lap dances and private shows and all that stuff. Nice to look at from afar, but we don't want to have any social interaction with these ladies. Not that there's anything wrong with these ladies. They're fine. I'm sure they're very nice. We're just not that kind of people. So what else do we want to do in the summer? We just want to relax. We want to have fun. We want to have late night fires and drinks around those fires and maybe some marshmallow roasting and spider wieners. Just roast your hot dog there, and that's a lot of fun. Those are tasty. I think that's the best way to have a Snyder's wiener is just cut the ends, put a stick on it, and just burn that thing up. It's real tasty and delicious. I guess that's really about it for summertime fun. I don't have any other big plans. Dream vacation. I would just love to hitchhike across Europe, see some culture, see the world. And actually, speaking of dream vacations and things you like to do in the summer, I would love for you listeners to write in soulforgepodcast@gmail.com and tell me what you do in the summer, what your favorite summer memory is, what your plans are. That's a suggestion from Richard, actually. You know how I've done the combo shows where I did Simple Pleasures and Irrational Fears, and I had a bunch of clips from different people? Well, I think it's a great idea that he suggested that I get a bunch of different people to talk about what they like to do in the summer. So email me, or even just tweet me. What is it on Twitter? It's @SoulForgePod. Send a message, and I can include that in an upcoming episode. Maybe by the end of the summer, I'll have a bunch of different clips from different people, from around work and friends and family and so on. But I'd also like to include some listener feedback. I just want some emails from you guys. I know you're listening. I see the downloads. Just take 5 minutes and send a quick email. Become part of the show. I'm trying to build a community here, and I can't do it without your help. That's my wish for the summer. Oh, and if you could like the page on Facebook, maybe share the episode links, that would be awesome as well. Leave a review in the iTunes store if you could. Spread the SoulForge word. Spread the SoulForge message. Let's get this going viral, guys. It would be awesome. Anyway, that's all I've really got for now. Hope you've enjoyed this lighter type episode. I've got some exciting shows coming up for you. Various different hard-hitting topics. Some light and fluffy fare. Trying to get some different people on the podcast. Some various other co-workers and friends and so on. Just to switch it up a little bit and bring a different perspective to the show. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, remember, it's okay if they don't understand your level of thinking. This has been another episode of the SoulForge Podcast. Contact the show by emailing soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or by tweeting SoulForgePod on Twitter. Visit us at soulforgepodcast.com, and remember, the best way to show your support is by leaving a 5-star review in the iTunes store. And, if you would, please check us out and like us on Facebook. The SoulForge Podcast was written, produced, scored, edited, engineered, and directed by Sean Vanderloo. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. For more great content, you can listen to my other podcast, The Rusted Robot. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. We'll keep the fires lit until your next visit.
I could do this all day.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.